Hello out there, all you historians, and welcome to your first lesson on the working conditions the working class people faced during the Industrial Revolution. You can find lesson 1 under the working conditions tab of the Industrial Revolution website. There's a lot to get through this lesson, so let's dive in. Your learning attention and success criteria. So by the end of the lesson, you need to know the working conditions of the poor working class during the Industrial Revolution. And by the end of the lesson, you need to be able to recall and explain working conditions of workers during the Industrial Revolution. So task 1 and 2 are both the same. So what you need to do is watch this video here and write down 5 facts. The working conditions of miners and factory workers. So that's what this video is about. So writing down 5 facts in your book. The second book is a factory worker in the Industrial Revolution. So in particular, factory workers as opposed to miners and factory workers. Both do touch on child exploitation, as you can see. And you've got to write down 5 facts in your book about this video as well. Task 3, we've got questions from History Crunch, or using History Crunch, I should say, on child labour in factories and mines during the Industrial Revolution. So let's have a look at those now, and we'll answer these together. So there's our infographic. So let's start with number 1. So answering these in your book. So what was the age of the youngest child workers in factories and mines during the Industrial Revolution in England? So we've got here boys and girls as young as 5 years old worked in industrial workplaces. So our answer for number 1 is 5. Number 2, name 3 reasons children were employed as workers and workers in mines and factories during the Industrial Revolution. So here are our reasons here. So there are 6 reasons. You just need to write down 3 of them. So they were obedient workers. They were smaller and more agile for industrial workplaces, no affordable schooling, there were no laws protecting children, working class families need the income, and they were inexpensive. Number 3, what was the average pay for men working in England in 1840? Here we've got 10 shillings, we can see that information here. Number 4, what was the average pay for women during 1840 in England? It was 5 shillings. And then children was 1 shilling. So you could pay them 10 times less than what you could a fully grown man. So they were much cheaper to employ. Name 3 of the appalling working conditions children had to face working in mines and factories. So here we are here. So they were dangerous, they were hot, there were no rights, there was poor pay, they were extremely dirty, and they were extremely long working hours. So you just need to write down 3 of those. What political movement to end child labour started in the mid-1800s? Here we've got that here is socialism, and Robert Owen was a big socialist as well. Number 8, who was the driver of this political movement? I just gave that one away, Robert Owen. And name 2 things the Factory Acts prevented. So Factory Acts prevented, here we've got left wing, we've got Factory Acts, a series of laws passed by the government, limited the hours, so that's 1, limited the hours and the type of work that children could complete. So that was the 2 things the Factory Acts did. Number 10, how does William Cobbett appeal to the members of Parliament during his speech in 1824? So we need to find that on the infographic that is located here. So let's read the speech first. What must be in the situation of the poor children who are doomed to toil 14 hours a day in an average of 82 degrees? Can any man with a heart in his body and a tongue in his head refrain from cursing a system that produces such slavery and such cruelty? So he's appealing to people's emotions and intelligence as well. So how can you live with a heart in your body if you don't try and stop this? So he's appealing to people's emotions for number 10. Again, thanks to History Crunch, they have really good resources for the Industrial Revolution. So task 4 is questions on working conditions for men and women during the Industrial Revolution as opposed to children. So you can see there is a lot more text in this site by History Crunch. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick little trick called Control F. So I'm just going to copy some of the key words in question 1. So the first question you need to answer in your books is what is laissez-faire capitalism? So if I go Control F and I type in laissez-faire, so classic liberalism is an ideology characterized by laissez-faire capitalism, which means that the government played as little role in the economy as possible. So that means the government didn't play a role in the economy. What did laissez-faire capitalism cause? So now I'm looking for laissez-faire capitalism again. I'm going to go back up to here. As a result, okay, here we go. There were little to no rules in place for workers in the Industrial Revolution. and that wealthy owners could act in any manner they wanted. For example, the factories and mines were incredibly dangerous places with few safeguards. So that could form your answer for number 2. Number 3, how many hours a day were people expected to work? So again, got a lot of text I'm going to read through. I'm going to go Control F and type in hours. So the first main feature of industrial workplaces was the long hours. So here they were expected to work 16 hours a day. So that's my answer for number 3. What would happen if workers took a break during their shift? So I'm going to look for the word break. Okay, here we go. So what made the situation worse was the lack of breaks during the long shifts. Often workers were denied their breaks or were deducted pay for taking breaks. So there's your answer for number 4. How much were families charged for rent a month? So I'm going to say rent up here. In comparison, families were usually charged 5 shillings per month for rent, even though children were only paid 1 shilling a week. Why were textile factories dangerous? So I'm going to look for the word textile. Might even look for the word dangerous as well. Dangerous has come up 10 times, and it's going to be past what I just read then. The industrial revolution was dirty and dangerous. For example, factories were notorious for being dangerous, especially textile mills. So this is where we're going to find here. Spinning, this is where we're going to find our answer. Spinning machines in textile mills were often left unguarded, so that's one answer, and pose serious risk. This situation caused industrial workers to become injured, and they were working dangerous conditions. Furthermore, the factories that were known for their excruciating heat, so they were hot as well. So there's 2 answers I could have for number 6. Why were factories so hot? Again, factories and industries were cramped and contained spaces, so that's one of the reasons why they were hot. And often they were built without windows or proper ventilation. So that is your answer for number 7. Number 8 now. How are employers able to force their employees to work extremely long hours in dangerous conditions? So I'm going to say force. They go back up here. Were forced to endure low wages and pay. In general, industrial workers were paid very small amounts to survive a struggle. So essentially, they could afford to pay them so less because there were so many other people who were willing to take their job if they didn't want their job. So there weren't enough jobs for people, so they could force them to work extremely hard hours and for low wages. And number 9, why could employers do this? What didn't employers have? Employers didn't have any rights or unions, and Factory Acts later helped employees out to form unions. Task 5, another website here from Weebly. We've got one made on the Industrial Revolution using Weebly. And this is pretty much women's role in the Industrial Revolution and in the experiences of women in the working class and the working conditions that women faced. So we've got to do a bit of reading here. We can use Control F again, so let's go and find out the answers. So number 1, how old was Mrs. Britton when she started working in a factory? So let's go Control F and type in Britain. Okay, let's see. A woman named Mrs. Britton explains her journey and testimony. Industrial Revolution from ages 10. So 10 to 16, Mrs. worked in a factory. So 10 is our answer for number 1. Now, I've got a little heading here, why women were employed. There's that heading here. So I know the answer for the next couple of questions, or for the next 2 questions, is going to be in this paragraph here. So number 2, how much less were women paid than men? So I'm going to find the word less. Okay, it's not there, so I'm going to have to read this paragraph here. So throughout the Industrial Revolution, gender was a major role in its working salary. Women tend to receive between 1/3 to half of a man's average salary. So there's my answer there. Number 3, why did companies employ women? As the manufacturing industries began to grow, they could take great advantage of low wages. The ability to employ these women and children for little pay proved to be very beneficial for these companies. Many industries exploited these people's need for money. So that's my answer. They exploited their need for money as they would turn a major profit in exchange for very cheap labour. So these people are very desperate for money. Number 4, I've got women in the working class. So this is where my answer is going to start here. What did women have to do once they got home from their long days? So I'm going to say home. Well, it doesn't actually appear there. But I do know that the answer is when they got home, this is about their lunch break, and when they got home, they had to look after the children. What did Elizabeth Bentley start what time of day did Elizabeth Bentley start and finish her work day? So I think I've even just identified that. A normal working day would work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with a 45-minute lunch break. So that's the answer for number 5. What would happen if women or children were late to work? They would get their wages deducted. That is here as well. Let's see if we can type in late. There we go. If the workers were late or broke rules, they could be strapped, and also down, so that means they could be hit. And also further down it says their wages were deducted as well. Name 2 of the jobs women were given in the mines. So let's find the word mines. So we've got here a hurrier. So women were given the job of hurrier. One example is Bentley Harris was a hurrier and 6 in the morning. So we've got again our hurrier there. Women that had to work in coal mines and Arctic were forced to pay labour and didn't receive pay equal to men. We've got one example. Where's our second one? Where is our second one? Ah, there, trapper. Okay. Number 8. Why were people vulnerable to being raped in coal mines? So that unfortunately did happen, and that answer is here for us. So in some cases, women would work in the pits with men who were often naked or close to being naked, which often gave way for sex within the workplace. So mines were very hot and very dirty, so often people didn't wear clothes or wore minimal clothes, and that led to sexual assaults and rape, and it was very unfortunate. It didn't happen during the Industrial Revolution. What time did Betty Harris start and finish work, and how much did she get paid? So let's find Betty Harris. She was paid 7 shillings per week. Betty was a hurrier. What time did she start and finish her day? Let's see if we can find that. It was Betty Harris, who was 37. Oh, 37, there we go. When she started working in the mines. And then number 10, what is particularly unfair about the pay women received working in coal mines? They were much less than that of men, even though they did the exact same work. And then guys, when you finish those questions there's a summary Kahoot for this lesson's content that you can play by clicking on this logo here. So thanks for watching, guys. And remember, if you want to stay updated to any new lessons that are made at existing websites or any new full websites, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe.